Welcome to Front Office Pros. We are going to be catching you up on all the latest news. Believe it or not, we are already at week 3 of free agency. So, Joe, let's start reacting.
Hike!
So we're just going to go right into the rundown of offensive players that have been signed since our last video. Running back Tony Jones signed a 1-year deal with the Broncos. Wide receiver Marquez Callaway signed a 1-year deal with the Broncos for $1.35 million. Wide receiver DJ Chark signed with the Carolina Panthers on a 1-year, fully guaranteed $5 million deal. Wide receiver Nelson Agholor signed with the Baltimore Ravens on a 1-year, $3.25 million deal, fully guaranteed. And then wide receiver Bryan Edmunds reunited with Derek Carr. He's going to the New Orleans Saints on a 1-year deal. Joe, what is your thoughts when it comes to this group of guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch on the couple of Broncos signings first here. As I kind of mentioned to you, I was kind of a little concerned that the Broncos are almost going a little gimmicky here, and it's just like, if you played with Sean Payton, let's get him on the roster. But, I think Callaway kind of it could be relevant given the news with KJ Hamler. He's kind of a speedy guy to kind of replace him there. And, it's interesting they got Tony Jones. I thought if they would go with any like former Saint running back, they would just bring back Latavius Murray, who played pretty well for him last year. Not to say that they still couldn't do that, but bringing in P. Ryan and now Tony Jones, be interesting how they utilize the backfield, especially given not sure what's going on with Javonte as far as his health as well.
Yeah, when they signed Marquez Callaway, that was after the KJ Hamler news, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So, yeah, that sounds like it was a reactive move based on the unavailability of KJ Hamler, which has been a common trend for Hamler in his time in Denver.
Yeah, unfortunate, man, because, when KJ's been on the field and they utilize him some with Russell last year, and he can be a difference maker just, and he's got the speed. He showed it off at Penn State in college, but just once he got to the NFL, it's just always something with a lot of, soft tissue injuries with hamstrings and things of that. Now he's working out and got a partial torn pec. So just extremely unlucky for him. But I think at this point, the Broncos are going to have to move on because they just can't keep happening to them.
Yeah, they can't rely on him, unfortunately. With Tony Jones, I don't know. Maybe he's a training camp body. I don't know if he'll end up being we'll call it 2A, 2B. We'll say if P. Ryan's 2A and Tony Jones is 2B. I agree. I thought Murray might have been in the cards for them because the fans really liked Murray a lot. He really did great coming in, even though he's older. So I wonder if they may draft one. I don't know. Obviously, you got players like Fournette and Zeke Elliott out there still as well, but we still haven't heard where they may be going, and even Kareem Hunt. So definitely some older running backs that we haven't heard from. But the Sean Payton Broncos decided to go back with someone that they had familiarity with.
Yeah, makes sense. I still do hope they do get Latavius back, though. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, just his veteran leadership he had in the locker room alone. I mean, that's why us Bronco fans liked him. That's something that the locker room really lacked, and it was a pretty young offense. And Russell doesn't seem to be that type of leader type guy. So getting Latavius Murray, and even at his older age, he performed pretty well. And he's somebody that me and the fans would like back. But Elliott's, I saw he's got 3 teams narrowed down, and Broncos weren't one of them, so I don't think Elliott's coming to Denver.
No, and I think I heard it. Now it's more like a wish list of what he wants because now you saw like Breece Hall and Michael Carter come out and be like, I think we're fine with the Jets backfield. What do you think? And Saleh came out and was like, I think it was Saleh was like, yeah, like really no comment, but we like our backfield basically.
Yeah, it never made much sense. When I saw the Jets on there, I was like, why in the world would the Jets of all teams want Ezekiel Elliott with the backfield that they already have? But I believe the Bills were on his list there. So
yeah, there were rumblings, but now they got Damian Harris. I think that takes him out of the running there. Then who knows? Maybe guys like Zeke and Fournette don't sign until after the draft because they're going to want to see what teams end up assigning running backs, or you always can see a training camp injury and then they're brought in. But as far as the other guys go, I really like DJ Chark. I like his potential. He's only 26 years old. He's 6'4". He's a big bodied guy. He's a contested catcher. He's not necessarily he isn't necessarily that great in space. And he's been okay. His best year was with Gardner Minshew, and he ranked 17th in PPR. Going over to Carolina, I don't love the spot because I just don't think he'll get a huge amount of volume there. More than likely, it's going to be a rookie quarterback coming in, and that's going to be the question. Who is the rookie quarterback that ends up coming to Carolina? That to me is the question, and that could change my thoughts on him. So if it's C.J. Stroud versus Anthony Richardson, I'm feeling a little bit better about Stroud because I think they're going to throw more. Where Richardson, maybe he's not going to have as many attempts, or it may just be Andy Dalton. So it's interesting. This is now the second year in a row that he signed a prove-it deal, which I think is kind of surprising. Usually you sign one so that you end up getting a longer-term extension done, but it just didn't happen for him. But he decides to go to Carolina. So I don't know. What do you think about Chark? It's an interesting spot.
Yeah, I think it's a real interesting spot for DJ Chark, and I think it's one of the better landing spots he could have possibly had because, with DJ Moore gone there's not really a main guy there in Carolina. And I know it's probably going to be a rookie quarterback throwing the ball, but they got to throw it to somebody. So I like the landing spot for Chark. Like you said, he's relatively on the young side, especially if you're a wide receiver. And, he's a guy that's always kind of been talented. Had his time, with injuries, but I feel like he just never got to really be featured in Detroit last year. He had some moments and some deep, big plays that he made, but they just had so many other receivers, Amon-Ra, they draft Williams, and then, they had the heavy run game as well. So I like to see what DJ Chark will do in Carolina. I'm excited for him.
Yeah, I guess if he really balls out, that organization might be able to reward him with a bigger contract, especially if he can establish a quick connection with whoever the rookie quarterback is. As far as the other two guys is concerned, with Baltimore, it's so hard to determine. With Agholor, I think it's a better spot because of, there's just isn't a lot of talent in that wide receiver room for Baltimore, but who knows what's going on with the Lamar Jackson saga, whether he'll be there or not. And if he does, will he sign or even play? So there's a lot of question marks with him. I think in general, I like it because, you had DeMarcus Robinson be relevant. I think Agholor is a better player than Robinson. And you really only have Rashad Bateman. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. So, and then you got Mark Andrews. He plays tight end. He takes up some targets. But that wide receiver room, he'll have some opportunities. And then for Bryan Edwards, he was a very interesting flyer late in rookie drafts when he first came out with the Raiders, and he showed flashes with Derek Carr. And then once they moved him, or once he left the team, he kind of just fizzled out. So, the New Orleans Saints receiver core is not that strong. You've got Chris Olave, he's the staple, but then Michael Thomas, he's so unreliable. He gets injured, and he can't stay healthy. So to me, after that, you've got Rashid Shaheed and Traquan Smith, they're okay. I know people like Shaheed, but Edwards, with that familiarity with Derek Carr, I think he has an opportunity to become relevant where he really has been irrelevant for quite some time.
Yeah, it's a guy that he had a lot of hype his rookie year based off of what he was doing in training camp with the Raiders. A couple of years ago when they drafted him, he had a lot of hype and was making big plays in training camp and had fantasy owners and redraft leagues all hyped up and ready to go for him, but just never really did things and benefited fantasy owners the way that everyone thought. But, reuniting with Derek Carr, like you said, it's not that deep of a receiver room in New Orleans. So I think he's got a shot, and we'll see if he could still develop into something. And, as far as Nelson Agholor goes, like you mentioned, Baltimore is definitely not the best spot, especially, with not knowing what's going on with Lamar Jackson. And even with Jackson, I'm interested to see how the offense will be with the new offensive coordinator, if they'll still be pretty run heavy, or if he'll let whoever plays quarterback throw the ball a little more, and if they go to that transition. But like you said, there's still a lot of receivers in that room with Bateman, Demarcus Robinson. I think they still have Devin Duvernay as well.
Yep, they have Duvernay as well.
So there you go. And then Mark Andrews is, elite tight end. So I think Agholor still has some talent, could benefit, but for fantasy, he didn't really go to a better spot from New England to Baltimore, in my opinion.
So transitioning over to the defense, the most prolific player who signed, linebacker Bobby Wagner, re-signed with his former team, the Seattle Seahawks, for 1 year, $7 million. Safety Terrell Edmunds signed with the Philadelphia Eagles on a 1 year, $2 million deal. Taylor Rapp signed a 1 year deal. Safety formerly of the LA Rams, he's now signing with the Buffalo Bills. And cornerback Sidney Jones is signing with the Cincinnati Bengals on a 1 year deal. And then kicker Zane Gonzalez. You don't see a lot of trades when it comes to kickers, but he was traded from the Panthers to the 49ers for a 2025 conditional pick. But Joe, what is your thoughts when it comes to these guys?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. Bobby Wagner going back to Seattle. It was a pretty cheap deal for him too. I didn't think Seattle would have been in the mix for him based on kind of the way that things ended there. Their relationship didn't seem like the best when he wanted to get out of there last year. But, he showed with the Rams he can still be a really good linebacker. And if you play in an IDP league, he's going to perform pretty well still. And I think going to Seattle, even though I was surprised, I think it's a pretty good spot for him. But although they just signed, they got
Devin
Bush
Bush
now.
Devin Bush.
Yeah, and then they still have
Jordan Brooks
as well. So yeah, it's kind of a crowded linebacker spot, but he could be a situational player, and he's still elite at coverage as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they utilize him there.
Well, what that tells me, based on what you were just saying, that Jordan Brooks, I think, could be done for the year. He tore his ACL really, really late in the season. And as a result, I think that he's going to have a long recovery time. Maybe he gets towards the end of the season, but they can't rely on that. So now that he's out of there, and they didn't re-sign Cody Barton,
right?
So they bring in Devin Bush, and now it sounds like it's going to be Devin Bush and Bobby Wagner, which I think is great for Bush, playing alongside a guy like Bobby Wagner. If he was ever going to get it right, I think this seems to be a great spot for him. But as far as Wagner goes, he's familiar with the system. His production should most likely stay the same. I think as a fan, I kind of was hoping he'd go to a Super Bowl chasing type of team and really, bring that level of just profile that he brings to a defense. And it just didn't happen. So I'm a little disappointed there. But I think from an IDP standpoint, I think he's going to just step right in. And, with Brooks out, he'll continue. As far as the other guys, I'll tell you what, Joe, I was shocked about Taylor Rapp going to the Bills. I kind of did a double take when I saw that. Not a household name, great player. But for us to get him on a 1 year deal, he's a good player. He's not a depth piece type of guy. And yet it sounds like he's coming there unless maybe Micah Hyde isn't recovering, the way that we think he could be. And maybe he's, it was a neck injury. By all indication, I've seen that it's going to be Hyde and Poyer, and maybe they'll just do some 3 safety sets and they'll be able to use those 3 safeties to defend against the tight end, which is, you have the Patriots now that have got Mike Gesicki and Hunter Henry. So, you got a team in the division that likes to feature tight ends. So I'm not sure, but I did find that kind of I like the move as a Bills fan. I just was surprised, and I wonder if there's more to meets the eye with this signing.
So I figured that you would like this Rapp signing, Steve. I think he's definitely a good depth add. But as far as Micah Hyde, they also had DeMar Hamlin, and obviously, we all saw him go down on the field, and he's talking about if he's going to play football again. We don't know. I think it might not be as indicative on Hyde as it is on him, and they could really use a third rotational guy. Hyde and Poyer aren't getting any younger, and they've kind of showed that they've missed some games. So I think you needed a solid backup, and that's exactly what Rapp will bring. And it is interesting how he got the 1 year deal, but we're seeing the safety market really, if you're not a true free safety, NFL teams aren't paying. with these strong safeties, it just the guys are having to get prove-it deals. I mean, C.J. Gardner-Johnson had to get a prove-it deal himself. Thought he was going to get a lot more money, and we'll wait and see if next year maybe if things change for him.
Yeah, definitely. And when it comes to Terrell Edmunds, is he now the replacement for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, only on a 1-year, $2 million deal? He was a former first-round pick, really has not done – he was kind of a bust in Pittsburgh, signed a prove-it deal last year to stay with the team. So I don't know. Do you think he steps in now as the safety? I know they signed also that Justin Evans. So it sounds like maybe they're doing a piecemeal approach when it comes to Philadelphia.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. I mean, they need somebody. They've lost so many players who were had a lot of snaps for them last year on defense. So they have to bring in some guys and figure it out. I mean, can't just rely on drafting rookies either to fill the gaps either. So it's nice to have some guys that have been in the league and have some vets to kind of fill that role and let a rookie potentially grow into it.
Yeah, and as far as the Cincinnati Bengals go, I thought that maybe they would bring Eli Apple back. Obviously, he's a very controversial player, I feel like, or at least people talk about him. And they have Chidobe Awuzie. They drafted that Cam Taylor-Britt. They have Mike Hilton. But it looks like now that Sidney Jones is probably going to replace Eli Apple. I don't think Apple's going to be coming back.
Yeah, I don't think so. And, I think they're probably better off with just Sidney Jones anyways. Eli Apple, I don't think is really that great of a corner. Sidney Jones, I mean, he's a guy who's made some plays. I remember seeing him with the Seahawks, and he's a pretty good player. And Eli Apple, yeah, you mentioned all the off the field stuff and that he gets into, and then you see him get burned a lot on the field. So I think that's actually better for the Bengals just to move on with him and move forward with Sidney Jones here.
Before we wrap up, Joe, any thoughts on the kicker news of Zane Gonzalez going to the Niners?
Yeah, so does that mean is Gold retiring?
Gold was a free agent, and he's not with the team.
Yeah, I like you. I thought it was pretty interesting. You don't really see kicker trades. So interesting that 49ers targeted Zane Gonzalez and liked him enough and said, hey, we want the kicker and we're willing to send over a pick for it in the trade. It definitely was interesting.
Yeah, you just don't see trades like that.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, a lot of times, you see kickers move teams, but usually that's free agency. Very rarely do we see a kicker trade.
Absolutely. So that's our rundown of all the players that just signed since our last video. If you've been enjoying this content, we encourage you to please like this video so that others can find it, subscribe to our channel, and put a comment below. What's been your favorite signing since our most recent video? Thank you so much for watching. And just a sneak peek, we're going to be doing some free agent grades, going through each NFL team. You don't want to miss it, so hit that notification bell. But thanks for watching, and until next time.